So the comment I get most when I'm working with a new client is, Tonya, I can't get on a schedule and I can't get all of my business stuff done because I have kids and my kids are not on a schedule. So I am going to show y'all how to put your kids on a schedule. And this works for every kid. Doesn't matter how old they are. Doesn't matter what grade they are in school, public school, homeschool, whatever. This will work. I have done it with so many clients that I know it's tried and true. And it is something that's not even that hard. So I'm going to talk to y'all about kids and time management and the 4 stages of getting your kids onto a schedule. Now, if y'all don't know me, my name's Tonya Johnson. I am the founder of Helping Hearts Homeschool and the Boss Mom Company. And what I did is I created a company specifically to help homeschool moms gain control of their time, create a lot of freedom with their finances, and put the joy back into their homeschool. Because what I found was a lot of moms were complaining that they did not like homeschooling, or I'd run into people who were only homeschooling because their husband wanted them to homeschool, which is fine. We all start somewhere. I didn't love it in the beginning either, but I wanted to show them that homeschooling could be such a joy-filled journey. It's not a process. It's not a system. It literally is a journey, and it's something that we are meant to enjoy. So that's why I decided to create the homeschool companies that I have. So let's hop into time management specifically for kids. Now, I do want to tell y'all that there is a corresponding blog attached to this. So if you go into the Facebook group, I believe it is called the Homeschool Humor Summit. I don't remember exactly what the title is, but find the post that I put up this morning. The thumbnail literally says time management for kids and basically like the 4 stages. So it's what I posted this morning. There is a gift card giveaway attached to that. So absolutely, you're going to want to check it out. Even if you're like, I don't really want the notes, check it out. Get your entry into the gift card. It's super simple. And then if you want to go check out the blog, it has all the notes for you. And I've got a really cool freebie over there that I'll tell you about in a minute. So it is something that you're going to want to go check out. So time management is kind of my thing. I kind of nerd out on it just a little bit, but it was not always that way. So I grew up in a very, very broken home. I had no time management skills whatsoever. And you know that cute little thing that people do where they like pick a word for the year? And I do that. I'm not hating on that whatsoever. However, if you would have summed up my childhood in one word, the word would have been chaos. There was no structure. There was no routine. There was no nothing. And when I left for college, to say that I was not prepared is like the understatement of the world. Now, when I was 16, I left New Mexico and I drove with a friend of mine and her parents all the way across country to Indiana to start college. Yes, I started college at 16. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. But because I came from such a poor economic background, I had to start working right away. I had no other options. I was paying for college completely out of pocket. So I moved on to campus, and 2 days later, I started a full-time 40-hour work week job. And I was working at a telemarketing company. First time I had ever done that. Didn't love the job, but you know what? It paid the bills, and I am super grateful that God gave me that experience. I was there for 3.5 years, and then I moved to another call center that paid a lot better for the last 2 years of college. And then I ended up managing a call center after I taught a little bit at a regular public school. So I kind of bounced all over the place, but it definitely opened up some avenues for me. Now, I had been working since I was 14. So I knew how to show up to work. I knew how to have a good work ethic. I knew how to get the things done, but I had never had a full-time job while I was in school full-time. So I dropped out of school at 14. I worked from 14 to 16. Again, that's a whole story for a whole nother day. But I had never done the full-time school and the full-time job. And then those of y'all that have been to college, you know that college is not just full-time school. Like, it's a whole other ballpark. So to be a teenager and to be in college, and yes, I got into college with the GED. So I went and took a GED when I was 16. I got a top 10% in the entire nation. God was very, very good to me in the fact that he gave me the learning style of textbook, which I've talked about in another series of mine, how to figure out your kids' learning styles and your teaching styles and combine those. So I was very lucky in the sense that I could pick up a book and study it for a few weeks and I could basically spit it back out at you. So I got the GED, I went off to college. I ended up graduating summa cum laude, so I graduated with honors. However, point A to point B is not cute. And I also got my 4-year teaching degree in a span of 5 years, because what happened was the first year, again, remember, no time management skills. So the first year, I burnt the candle at both ends. I got really good grades. I showed up to my job every day. I did everything that I needed to do. Now, on top of this, I was at a ministry college. I don't know how I got there, but that's where I went. So on top of studies, I was taking the most amount of credits that you could take in a semester. I was working the max amount of hours that the job would allow, because they didn't give you overtime, obviously, like you're a 16-year-old kid. And on top of that, we were required, okay, they didn't tell us this, but it was required, to volunteer for 15 to 20 hours per weekend in the ministry. So I burnt myself out. I actually ended up getting really sick as well. And because of that, year 2, I only took 2 classes each semester, so a total of 4 classes for the entire year. I almost got fired from my job because I did not show up. I called off every chance that I could get. And I just hung out with friends and partied the entire time. Now, not partied like what you normally would think party, but I just hung out. I didn't do anything productive. And that was a direct result of not having any time management skills and not knowing how to balance the two. Now, here comes my 3rd year, and thank God, one of my professors saw that my behavior was not exactly like healthy and helped me learn some time management skills. She was very, very kind. She understood my situation. She understood my background. But here's what happened. I fell in love with time management. I saw that I could do it all. I could be the full-time college student and get good grades. I could have a full-time job and do well at that job and get lots and lots of bonuses for doing well at that job. I could also tutor people part-time. I could give piano lessons part-time because I was in college and kind of broke. And I still had time to somewhat have a social life. And I saw that time management was my ticket to freedom. And by year 5, again, 4 years of education into a 5-year program, because I kind of wasted my sophomore year. But by year 5, I was able to teach a time management and life skills class to juniors and seniors in high school for the entire year. And that honestly was probably one of the highlights of my college experience. It was so cool to be able to give them some of the tools for life that I had not gotten as a teenager. And I still keep in contact with some of those, I would say girls, but I'm 33 now, so those girls that were 16, 17, and 18 when I was teaching them are moms. But I still keep in contact with them. And there are still times oh, Miss Tonya, I did this, this, and this, and I thought about you. Because we created such a good bond over time management. And then on the flip side, I still have some of those girls that will reach out to me and say, hey, Miss Tonya, I have a baby now, and I remember you teaching us this, but I don't remember exactly how to do it. How does that fit into my life as a mom? And I'm able to impart my wisdom that I have gained from being a mom, because obviously I wasn't teaching any of that. I was a college student that was single. So anyways, I told you all, I nerd out about this. So a little ahead of myself, but I just want to teach you all how to teach this to your kids. Now, this brings me to my first point, however, and that is, number 1, is it starts with us. So basically, I've got 2 tips I want to share with you, and then 4 stages of actually action steps to give to your kids. So the first tip is it does start with us. We have got to learn some sort of good time management skills if we want our kids to learn them. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed if you're Tonya, I can't even make it to church on time every week. I don't know what you're talking about. That's okay. This is not a wash. This is going to be baby steps. And so what I want you to do is, if you go over to the blog that I referenced, there's going to be a whole section on how to organize your life, and a lot of that's talking about your schedule. And then the nitty-gritty of how to actually schedule. Scheduling, to-do lists, how to piece everything together in a way that makes sense to you. It's a flexible system. It's called the Boss Mom Scheduling System. It's something that I created several years ago, and I started it out for women who were in business and then realized, oh, homeschool moms are basically running a business. You may not be getting paid for it, but like homeschooling is absolutely a full-time job. So it's something that I share with every mom that I know now. It's a totally free system. So make sure you go to the blog. That's one of the freebies I have for you. And then just impart a few things. You don't need to do the entire system. You need to pick one or two things and focus on those and let your kids see those. Because here's what's going to happen. It's the exact same as if I tell my daughter, oh, you've got to do your responsibilities before you can have screen time. But I'm sitting over here scrolling on my phone, haven't showered yet, and none of my household responsibilities are done. She's going to look at me and be like, oh, first things first, huh? That's one of the principles you teach me? What you doing? Okay, that's going to be her attitude because she's 8 and she's just like her mom. Another example of that would be when we tell our kids that they need to feed their bodies with good nutrition, and then they catch us snarfing down ice cream at 11 o'clock at night when they get up to use the bathroom. I'm not speaking from experience. So we need to set the example. First tip is it starts with us. And with that, if you're coming into this and you don't have any time management skills, give yourself grace. Give your kids grace. Learn right alongside with them. And they're going to respect you that much more for that as they get older and look back and like, hey, mom decided to do a better job and show up as the best version of herself for us, even though she had the really hard job of being our mom and homeschooling us and cooking dinners and cleaning the house and all the things that we do. She still went the extra mile and decided to teach herself something while teaching us. And they're going to respect you like astronomically for that. Now, the second tip I have for you is if you have more than 3 or 4 kids, start with the youngest first. Or maybe you have only 3 kids, but you have a 2-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 12-year-old. 3 different stages. Start with the youngest first. Because what we're going to do is every stage builds upon itself. So you can do stage 1 with the entire family, and then take your older kids and move them to stage 2 while your younger ones are still in stage 1. And I'll talk more about that as we go through the different stages. But it's easiest if you start with the youngest first. So if you only got 2 or 3 kids and they're around the same age, start them all at the same. And then 1 or 2 may move up at little slightly different stages, but they're all going to kind of probably go at the same speed. Now, stage 1 is the picture stage. Stage 1, you're not really focused on scheduling at all. You're focused on getting down a rhythm, and you're focused on quality. So you're focused on teaching your little ones how to complete each task with pride and doing their very best work. And I don't care if it's something as simple as brushing their teeth. Do they hurriedly brush their teeth, throw their toothbrush down on the sink and have toothpaste all over? Or are they brushing their teeth, your whatever timer system or like whatever philosophy y'all follow with that? Are they doing it well? Are they rinsing off their toothbrush? Are they putting it back where it belongs? Are they taking maybe a napkin or we have like little Lysol wipes under our sink? Are they taking one out and wiping down their area and putting it in the trash? Like, how are they completing that task? So this is how we started Glory too, by the way. When she was 2, we started this. This is typically, you're going to start them around 1.5 to 3. It depends on the kid. And it also depends on if you have other kids. If you have older kids, but maybe you have like an 18-month-old walking around, yeah, start training them young. But maybe if you only have a 1-year-old, you may want to wait and implement this in like a year. So totally depends on your kids, your family, your style. But what it is they are picture cards that you literally put on your refrigerator with a magnet. So these are going to be basic. When you're first starting this, you don't want to have 30 cards that they've got to keep track of. You're going to have a handful of cards. So maybe you'll have wake up, brush your teeth, have breakfast, do your responsibilities, which for a 2-year-old is going to be like 1 or 2 things, like making their bed and maybe picking up a couple of toys, right? Like we don't have them cleaning the kitchen top to bottom while they're in diapers. Have playtime. Have devotions with mom or with dad, have lunch, have more playtime, have dinner, have bath time, and bed. So that's like, 11 or 12 cards? And you could do less than that. You don't have to do that many. But the point is they're going to have visuals in front of them that's going to let them know what to expect. throughout the day. Guys, kids, this has been studied. This is not my opinion. Like, you can go Google this. Kids crave routine and structure. They thrive under routine and structure. They behave better with routine and with structure. I know a lot of y'all run businesses just like I do. I could not run a business from home and be as successful with it as I am without my daughter having some sort of discipline and structure. The way our family works, and when she was 2, it was a little different, because when she was 2, my husband was working, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, I literally figured this up before I did this video. He was working over 75 hours a week, and he did that straight for 3 years. He worked Monday through Saturday. He worked third shift, so it was like not a fun time span. He would go into work anywhere from 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes not get home till 7, 8, 9 o'clock the next morning, sleep until basically time to go back to work. So we had zero life back then. But again, it is what it is. Sometimes you do things that you got to do to get the bills paid. So I called myself a solo parent, and I wasn't a single parent. I will not take that away from anybody. The struggles are different. We had 2 incomes. I definitely had that emotional support that I needed. Like, I was not a single parent. I absolutely had a husband, and he was amazing. However, all of the tasks Monday through Saturday with our daughter was 100% on me. Didn't matter if I was sick. Didn't matter if I had a migraine, because I got those a lot back in the day. It was my responsibility, and that was 100% fine. I signed up for that, but I was a solo parent. So and I was launching my business back then, so I don't even know how I did that. But in order to get all the pieces in place, she had to have some kind of structure, some kind of a routine. And it was messy at times, but it absolutely was worth it. Like, it's something that if I could go back, I would not change anything when it comes to the routine that we gave her. Now, I just mentioned business. Obviously, it's really good for business. It's also just good if you are needing some alone time, or if you need to know when you have pockets of time to get your own chores done, because guess what? 2-year-olds are kind of clingy. So, pictures on the fridge with pretty magnets, and what we did is we have the picture up there, and when she completed the task, we just took the picture down. We didn't do anything fancy, and then the next morning I would get up, put all the pictures back up before our day started. Like, it was not anything fancy at all. And we stayed in this stage, and I would suggest you staying in this stage for a couple of years. This is not like, these are 4 stages, aren't things that you run through. These are foundations that, again, you just kind of build upon as they get older. Now, the exception would be is if you're starting this and you already have older kids, you just want them to like master these first. That's a different story. But if you're starting this from the time your kids are young, I would stay in stage 1 until probably your kids are like 3 or 4, so a year or 2. So stage 1 is pictures. Stage 2 is timers. Now, this is where if you have older kids, remember I said some kids stay in the stage 1 and some in stage 2. So if you have older kids, you take them out of stage 1 and you move into the timer stage, which I'm going to explain to you right now. The little kids stay at the pictures. They are focused on getting those tasks done proficiently. So stage 1, we focus on proficiency. Stage 2, we focus on efficiency. So getting it done without dragging your feet. We focus on how can we get this done the quickest without compromising quality. That's what stage 2 is all about. So stage 2 is going to be taking your slightly older kids out of stage 1, or again, if you've been doing stage 1 for a year or 2 like we did, they're ready to go to stage 2. So that's when you start playing this game with them. This is what I did with Glory. I said, hey, Glory, you want to play a game? Let's see how fast you can clean up your bedroom. Okay, but it's got to be good. You can't throw stuff in the closet. You can't throw stuff under your bed. We struggled with that for a while. You can't, X, Y, Z. So you remind them the quality. And you say, okay, so I'm going to set a timer, okay? But remember, it has to be done your very, very best. Okay, go. And they'll go in and they will clean. And they will do it very well. And you'll take note of that. So I didn't mention this, but one of the freebies I have in the blog for you are the pictures that you can download totally for free. Put them on your fridge, use them with your kids. Now, you can go to places like Amazon and they have ones that are already laminated and they have like much bigger packs. If you want to pay for them, I would suggest downloading the free ones, seeing how they work for y'all before you go pay for something. Just my opinion though. I also have a timesheet for you. So what you're going to do when you do the timer section is you're going to write down all the tasks that your kid does. And then you're going to have 7 to 15 slots over here. I have 2 options for you. And you're just going to write down, okay, today's Monday. This is how long it took them. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And you're going to come up with an average. How long does it take my child to clean the bedroom well on average? Because you're going to move that into stage 3 later. So it's important that you get each task down to, okay, how long does it take them to actually do this? And by the way, this isn't a bad practice to do with yourself either. I have done this multiple times, and I can tell you, let me just give you a real life example. It takes me 17 minutes to take my my dry clothes into a basket, my wet clothes into the dryer, and put all those dry clothes away. 17 minutes, it's not that long. If I put on a show to watch while I'm doing it, it takes me like an hour and a half. So your kids are the same way. You've got to make sure that they understand how to be efficient. So when they're older, they're not wasting time unless they choose to waste the time. I still choose to watch TV when I do my laundry sometimes, but it's a conscious choice. And I know the days that I don't have time to do that, I don't do it. The days where I schedule in a little extra time because I want to watch a show, that's how I do it. So I'm not saying you can't waste a little time here and there. I'm saying it needs to be a choice, not because you don't know how to plan out your day or how to time yourself or do tasks efficiently or whatever. So stage 2 is timers. And like I said, this is a fun stage because you're playing games with your kids. Like they're trying to beat the clock. Now the warning I will give you, especially if you have kids around the same age, you never, ever, ever compare 2 kids against each other. It's not a race to see who can get done first. It's a race to see who can do their very best and beat their own time from the previous day. That's all it is. And I would explain to my child, because at this point, they're going to be 4 or 5. They understand a little bit, but I would explain to them it's not a race. What we're doing is we're seeing how well we can do the job and still have time left over to play a game or to do a craft or to watch a show or whatever your kids like doing. So just give you that little piece of advice there. I only have 1 kid, so I've not had this issue with my own kid. However, during COVID, and I think I said this in the last summit, I homeschooled other people's kids for a while. And I mean, if you're at my house, you're going to have chores. I mean, y'all might not agree with that. You're not doing like my household chores. But for example, at the end of the day, like 1 kid's cleaning up the living room, 1 kid is wiping down counters in the kitchen because we all ate in there twice, plus snacks. 1 kid is tidying up the school, area and putting books and stacks depending on what kid it belongs to. So we had chores at our house. Like I'm not cleaning up after you when y'all leave. And it was never a race of, okay, we're going to pit this kid against this kid. What we did is we would set a timer. Usually it was a 30-minute timer. And each kid would have their zone. And we would rotate, like they didn't have the same job every day. And what we did is we saw who could get done quicker than the last time they had that job. And I had like charts and stuff, and I showed them like, hey, last time you had the school table, this is how long it took you. Do you think you can do it quicker this time? And then we would reward all the kids. If each zone was done well, we went outside for the last 30 minutes before parents came. Now, I lived in Indiana. This was the summer, so we could do this. Every area would be different. And we played games. We had popsicles. Like, they just had fun until their parents came. So, all that to say, I do have experience with a larger number of kids. However, I understand with siblings is a little different because you have that sibling rivalry. Just make sure you're not making it a competition between your children. Now, stage 3 is going to be time slots. So typically you're going to start your child in this stage between ages of 5 and 6. So 2, 3, and some parts of 4 is going to be stage 1 with pictures. Some parts of 4, all of 5, maybe a little bit of early 6 even, again, it really just depends, is going to be adding the timers in, and we're really going to focus on efficiency. And then 6, 7, sometimes a little later, you're going to move them into that time slot stage. It depends on the kid. This is not like a one-size-fits-all thing when it comes to when you do the stages. Regardless, though, however old your kids are, and if you're starting newly to time management, don't rush this stage. Make sure that they understand how to do each task proficiently and how you expect it to be done. and efficiently before you ever move them into stage 3. And as an adult, I'd probably follow these same steps. Make sure that you know your times for certain tasks before you try to start like full-fledged scheduling some of them. Now, remember how I said you can have multiple kids in multiple stages? This is a perfect example of that as well. Because you may have a 2-year-old in the picture stage, a 4-year-old who's now working with timers and trying to see what their efficiency level is, and then an 8-year-old who's now putting things in time slots. So they're all doing relatively the same thing throughout the day, but they're going to be going about it a little bit differently because time management is something that grows with us as we grow. And that goes, like I said, for adults and for kids both. Now, stage 3, you could still use the pictures depending on how young your kid is. Like if you're moving them into this stage when they're 5 or 6 because they're just really catching on to everything like super fast, then still you can use the pictures. And in the freebie, I actually have this for you. I have times attached as well. And I typically will do 30-minute increments on this. I don't schedule it out by like the 5-minute for sure. But I do have the cards and stuff in there for you for free. Now, if your child's a little older, like we just now moved Glory into this stage when she was like 7. So she's kind of out of the picture stage. We just got a cool notebook and we write the time slots in there. So, for example, if I know that the first thing my daughter does is wake up and come eat breakfast, then the first thing on her time slot is going to be breakfast. And that might be whatever time her wake-up time is. So I will say, again, kids thrive on structure. Have a set wake-up time and a set bedtime. It may vary a little bit on the weekends, but for the most part, have those set. So she knows that she's going to wake up at whatever time. I know it takes 15 minutes for her to eat breakfast. So I'm going to schedule 30 because she's a kid and we're not going to rush her through things. So then 30 minutes later, we're going to have our next activity. She's going to be able to look at that list and for the most part, know what her day is going to look like and what time each thing is going to happen. Now, we also have communication because things come up. Not everything goes 100% as planned. And so we never are going to get disappointed if our schedule gets thrown off. And this is another big trick to learn as a kid because as an adult, that's a really hard thing to swallow. But for the most part, she knows what to expect and that keeps her stable and it makes it to where she doesn't have anxiety around things. And she pretty much knows how the flow is going to go every day. Now, in this stage, you do all the scheduling. That's why it's not called scheduling. It's called time slots. They're not scheduling anything. All they're doing is getting used to seeing tasks and times and having a structure more than just a routine. It's actually like times are attached to things. Now, this is where you're going to go oldest to youngest. So when you're setting up your schedule, you always want to do oldest to youngest because the older ones are going to have a little bit more complicated schedules than the older ones. So this is how our day goes. I get up before my daughter and I set out my schedule from the day. From there, I write out her schedule for the day because obviously it needs to fit into mine. I don't need to schedule a 45-minute work Zoom when she's supposed to be doing a subject that I know is a hands-on subject for me. Like I need to be present with her to do it. So I look at my schedule and then I schedule her day from there. And then if I had a kid that was still in stage number 2, where we were just doing the timers, I would then schedule theirs out and say, okay, obviously like if my daughter is having breakfast on her time slot, then the other kids also need to be having breakfast at this time. And I wouldn't time breakfast necessarily. Like you may time it in your head. I wouldn't tell your kid you're timing it because they're going to rush through their food. But you'll be able to gauge how long it's taking. And then, of course, you're going to have one in, if you have one in stage 1 as well, you get them up and they come to the fridge and point, oh, look, it's breakfast time. So you're all doing the same thing, but you are going about it a little bit differently because you're at different levels of time management in your journey. And then stage 4 is full-blown scheduling. Now, your kids are going to move into this stage between like 8 and 10. And this is going to set them up for high school and for college and for their jobs and for their marriage. They're going to know how to not only set up a routine for themselves, not only how to do tasks proficiently, no matter if they like them or not, because we're not going to like everything that comes to us as an adult. They're going to know how to do those tasks efficiently and not drag their feet. And they're going to know how to stay somewhat on a schedule So now they can create their own schedule with any tasks, any situations, any jobs, any careers, any children, any marriages that come into their life. Now, this is where it's very hands-on in the beginning. We're just now doing this, and we only do it like 1 day a week. I suggest starting for 1 day a week, then you move your kids to 2 days a week. And what happens is I get up and I set my schedule, and then when my daughter gets up, instead of saying, here's your notebook with your time slots, we say, okay, let's look at mommy's schedule and figure out what you need to be doing. So usually we start with, okay, what's everything that you can think of that you will need to do today? She writes them on a list. And then she looks at my schedule and makes sure she didn't forget anything. And then we say, okay, I'm having breakfast at this time. So what time should you probably have breakfast? Because we like to do breakfast together. At this time, I'm going to have a work Zoom. So what do you want to do in that time? Not should you, do you? So we teach them that time management gives them freedom. Freedom to choose to do fun things. And as you're getting older through those stages, instead of scheduling in playtime, you're going to get specific. So you're going to schedule in slime time, watch a movie, play with Legos, and you're going to get your kids involved in this. This isn't you picking everything they're doing. This is them getting to have control of their schedule. This is them being empowered to do things that they enjoy doing, which is going to keep them happy, keep them out of your hair for certain things, and it's going to let them have control to where they're not bucking because you're constantly making them do things. So this system just works really well overall. Again, I've had lots of moms implement this, and I never have any negative feedback from it. So when it comes to stage 4 and they're writing their schedule out, they really get to have control. Now, you've already worked with them for so long that they're going to set it up how they're supposed to set it up. This isn't going to harm your family at all, but it's allowing them to say, okay, this is my day. This is how I want my day to go. And then they get to take ownership of it. So no longer is your child stomping around because they don't want to do their chores. They wrote that on the schedule. They know that if they get their chores done in that time slot, they get to go play 30 minutes of Xbox or whatever your family does. So now they're taking ownership, and they're also trying to get it done a little quicker without sacrificing quality, because then they get a little extra time of whatever like enjoyment they've scheduled in. So this is like, I can't tell you how much freedom comes with this. All I wish is I would have had this as a kid. I wish I would have had the structure and the routine to where I didn't have to learn this the hard way as an adult. And as parents who have tools like this, we have the privilege of getting to help our children have better childhoods and better adulthoods from what we get to teach them right now. So kind of my final thoughts to wrap this up is this should go without saying, but time management and scheduling is not about dragging our kids from task to task to task throughout the day and kind of drudging through life. And a lot of moms kind of have that outlook as well. They either look at time management and scheduling as this unicorn that they could never get, or this like 4-letter dirty word that's going to make their life not fun anymore. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. One, it's achievable for everybody. It is such a simple system, like it can be implemented anytime in any family. 2, it doesn't make your life boring. It actually makes it more fun, because now you're going to have time to do all the things that you want to do without sacrificing the quality in the areas of life that you need to be showing up in, like momming and homeschooling and cleaning and all the fun things that come with the stage of life that we're all in. If you like this topic and like this training, again, make sure you go check out the blog that corresponds with it and get the freebies. There's like so many freebies out of today's lesson that I'm excited to share with you, and I think they'll really benefit your family, but you do have to go download them. And until then, I will see y'all on another video. I don't know if this is like first or second. You can go to helpingheartshomeschool.com. I have lots of other content up there, and I will see y'all soon.